so let's see. We are live in YouTube. I'm going to share it on Patreon. Just need the YouTube link. I don't like how they won't give you the YouTube link until after it's started, so then you look like you're bumbling around. There we go. Okay. Hi, guys. Just share this over to my Patreon page. I have a Patreon page in case you don't know. It is at intuitionliving.com. Oops, I don't want the embed code. And I found that this is probably the best way to share with the Patreons through YouTube. So I just need to copy this over to them real quick. We've had a heck of a time with the computers, but what's new? My dad wanted to read something about this being in Pleasantville that he had written in the Ask Jesus book that's actually available on Amazon. If you guys want to get it, the newest one will be available soon. It's being published by a publisher, so it takes longer to get out. Although I think, don't we have PDFs of it that we could?
We've got them. Yeah.
We can really sell them in PDF form on my website. I'll have to set that up. Patreon.
Because I know there were some people who are waiting for our mysteries book.
Mm-hmm.
That's done. The new Ask Jesus book is done, which is called Conversations with Jesus.
Yeah.
And the condensed Bible Speaks book is done.
Mm-hmm.
So we got all three of those books ready to go.
And I need to see if they I need to see if they're out yet, because Bill didn't even tell me that he had, what's it called? The snow globe. I didn't even know that we sent the snow globe over to him. Okay, there we go. Topic, undetermined. Determined. As always. Channel looks weird. Is that how you spell it? Yeah, that's how you spell it. And Patreons only. How did that look? Okay, so comments only read on YouTube. Schedule for September 13th. Give me a break. Because they want us to review it, right? Is that why you guys are doing this? Okay, today's the 12th. And it is 2:40. Am I using my free will? I guess so. I don't want to schedule it. I want to go publish now. I was trying to schedule it for tomorrow at this time. Okay. Back to tube. Okay, it's probably frozen. I was probably frozen like that forever. There we go. Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna turn this.
You better turn that down, otherwise you're going to be hearing yourself
Fine.
3 seconds after you speak.
There we go. Okay, later on I'll edit out the first however many minutes that was. So I had said a prayer and called in the guides, and my dad had gotten in his mind that he wanted to read something about Pleasantville, and we were talking about how, oh, here, let me rewind. First, I'm just going to say a prayer. And just so you guys know that if you're watching on Patreon, I only see the YouTube chat because I'm over on YouTube right now. I'm streaming it through Zoom so we can record it. And it's going into YouTube, and that's where I'm looking at the comments. Okay, good. Perfect.
You want just half of me, or either cut me out or
No,
or include me in?
Should work. Oh, it's on lag time, big time. You can see what it looks like live right here. There.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Water. Okay. So so I'm just going to say a prayer really quick and just, okay. Heavenly Father, God, source, creator, energy, God, we ask you to surround this house, lift it up above duality, lift it above any tricksters or elementals or anything that's here that's not for our highest and best good. We were talking about some negative stuff in the last couple of hours, and I know that energy came in. So we just ask that all that energy from that person, that family, the newscaster guy, all that energy just be released, disconnected from Papa and I and Poochie. Oh, there she is. And Poochie, and that Jesus was in here earlier lecturing me, so he wanted to lecture us. He didn't say he wanted to. I could tell he wanted to. And just ask him to please come back in, because he left, and reconnect with me so that I can be a clear channel for anything that's coming through. Yesterday we wanted to channel the presidents, and they wouldn't come through because a big fat angel was standing in the way. Wouldn't let them come through because the energy was too gnarly for me. But if a higher version of them can come in and we can know who we're talking to and what they're talking about, then that'd be cool too, if that's in your guys' agenda. So just ground us and protect us and connect us and all that good stuff. Amen. Okay, Jesus is standing right in
Normally,
front of us.
just from my experience or our experience, is that we had a real hard time when we wanted to do the Bible Speaks book, and we wanted to interview the different authors of the Bible, which were, a few of them were apostles. We had a really hard time. We had a hard time getting in Matthew and Mark. And at one point they said it's better to call in their higher self rather than the real person. And then the higher self will then bring in the person when something specific needs to be said because of a feeling or something that the human had.
Yeah, because the higher self doesn't have feelings.
So I think when we want to talk to the presidents, we need to be just calling in the higher self of the presidents. But I think we did that yesterday.
We were talking about four people that were all the presidents.
Jesus popped in.
Yeah.
And Jesus spoke for all of them.
He says, I'm always the president.
Jesus is always the president?
Yeah.
His higher self, which would be Christ.
Yeah.
Christ infuses him?
Yeah.
Even the bad presidents?
Yeah. Because they have to create duality. They have to create, if it was a perfect society, it'd be like the example that they're saying, the example that we use about the buffet, that you go and you eat your favorite food every single day, and before long you're going to be sick of it.
Or does that tie into free will? Does the president just say, screw it, I'm not going to listen to this?
No president has ever gone free will. Ever. That's what they said.
Yipes. I got one
Roosevelt.
president.
I don't know what Roosevelt did. Remember, Christ is also the Antichrist. For every, positive, there's a negative. This is, okay, Jesus here says, for every positive, there's a negative, but to every negative, it's a positive to someone. So some people see it positive, some people see it negative. It's all a matter of opinion. It's all a matter of the emotional experiences that a human being has had. So some may say that the president right now is the Antichrist, and some may say the one that was before was the Antichrist. Some may say they're both Christ. Some may just not even care at all and may look more at the Pope, or may look more at the church and how the church is built, or they may be like the family you're just speaking of. It's all about the hierarchy of the family and where the family's in and what the family is. Everybody's at a different level of consciousness, no better, no worse, just is. So as people tune into greater and greater aspects of themselves, they realize, oh, I'm not my family. But they move into becoming themselves, their I am, their God self. And that's where usually the Antichrist will step in, because of fear of being on their own, and they'll either step back into the family, or they'll get really into the planet, they'll get really into their town or their city, or something that ties them in with a group of people, a group, so that anything that they do is not their fault, it's the group's fault, it's someone else's fault, it's the black people or the white people or the Mexicans, it's all their fault, not their own. And this is human nature. So we wanted to speak about that a bit, but we will do this when the two of you are taping it, because there's a lot of things that we wanted to discuss that you, Joe, will say, oh, wait, hold on, our book said this, and then you'll get offended, and then everyone will be watching, and then, but if we tape it, you won't do that so much. You'll listen. So we wanted to talk about that because it's the next step after people have a spiritual awakening. They can clear themselves in their snow globe. They can go up and down in the elevator. They can do all of these things, but there's a point where they hit a point where they can't go any further. And that's the point where they believe that God is outside of them. They believe that God is another being completely. They believe that I am God and I am outside of them, whereas I'm inside every single person. And infused by love, you would call me Jesus. And infused by fear, you would call me Lucifer. Or that is that his brother? The brothers. What? Oh, and the angelic flame. I see them up there. They're angels. Yeah, there's Christ. And then I see like two beings coming out from Christ, and it kind of looks like the yin and yang symbol. And then I see Lucifer and Jesus go through the morning star, and they split out this way and like hit their own planets or something. And then they are up on their own planets and they're shining their influence down onto this planet. And they're like battling against each other. Is that really Jesus?
If that's true, then I do picture them both with controllers in their hand playing the video game. Each one's trying to win. Each one's trying
Not
to
them.
win.
They're controlling the grid. They're not controlling the people. People have their own free will. But the souls that are coming straight from source or straight from the creator, those souls that come down, maybe it's called the Holy Spirit, the souls that come down are infused with solar light energy, and it's like a battery pack that you wear. And that battery pack will remain on you, keep your vibration high, keep you healthy, keep you strong, so long as you go where the battery pack wants you to go. So it'll say turn right, but if you turn left, then your battery pack's over here and now you're in sin. So being off your soul's path is technically sin. And the only reason why you would ever go off that path is due to fear. So whether it's fear of being alone, fear of being with someone, fear of not being with someone, fear of getting sick, fear of anything, you go this way. And then you don't have your soul's energy, and then you have to gain that energy in other ways, whether it be from other people or from him. And there it's pointing at Lucifer, and he's like waving. He says there's different aspects of us, and part you're talking about, Joe, is the human, the lower self in the movie in Pleasantville. The lower self doesn't really know any better. The lower self then wakes up, becomes self-aware, and knows that it's in a movie and it's just playing out the way that it needs to play out, just as we spoke of yesterday. What's going to happen is going to happen, is going to happen. However, what we can't fully clearly explain through this channel unless she draws is the fact that all of you are on different planets projecting down into this planet anyways. So you are the souls. You are the ones with the controller. And that's what I wanted to clarify. That's the only thing I wanted to clarify. All of that is correct, but you're the ones with the controller.
Our soul is.
You are your soul, unless you're angry and mad and you're your lower self. But now, as of January of 2020, everybody is their soul. If they were disconnected from their soul, they perished.
But we've also been told that our soul can have more than one of us in existence at the same time.
Yes.
So how can I be my soul when George Smith over there is my soul also, and Jane Smith or Jane Jones is my soul also?
What you know is what you know, and what you are told is what you're told. So you will only see what you're supposed to see. You won't. And when you evolve past the soul level, which is where everyone's been pushed into, which is an intermediary, but an entry level into the soul's ascension. But when you first go into your soul, you'll start to know things that you shouldn't know. You'll start to have senses that you wouldn't have sensed before. You'll start to pick up on things. And that's because other streams of consciousness are coming from the soul that you are. And those streams are usually lower beings, whether they be like animals or elementals or things like that. You personally, from your soul, have Joe Moris. And then he's saying this is where the mix up comes into play. Spirit and soul are flipped. Remember when we flipped spirit and soul a long time ago? So your soul is actually your spirit. They're talking about your spirit. You know, our spirit comes in each lifetime and it dies and it leaves. And then you get a new spirit, new spirit, new spirit. He's saying that's why he says he wants to draw it, because the soul creates the spirit, but we've always had it flipped where the spirit creates the soul.
Well, that goes against the parable of the mannequin, because the mannequin says we have lots of light bulbs within us.
Yeah.
We have our spirit, we have our soul, we have God the Father within us, and we got the Holy Spirit.
And that's the I am self.
And we got,
the mannequin's the whole self. So the soul.
Now a spirit, so the soul and the Holy Spirit and Christ can all be within us, and the spirit, that is a gift from God, the Father. And that spirit holds our plan. And that plan can be changed by removing that spirit, putting in a new spirit. I mean, they talk about it. We talk about it in all our books, how you, Marissa, are not the same person you were 25 years ago.
But she could be. She could be if triggered by the same frequencies that were available at that time. And this is why we were speaking earlier of the music and people thinking about the past. It's because you'll be triggered by frequencies, and then people will become their past, because the soul, whatever it thinks it is. And this is why so many people are choosing to exit and leave the planet at this time. It's a mass exodus of souls. And this is why we need to minister to the people and explain to people why their loved ones have died, why their loved ones would even choose to leave. And it's not that they choose to leave, it's that they're programmed with things like, I must be sick in order to get attention. And many, 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 many human beings have that. Or I must be a victim in order for people to love me, to be lovable. So they have these beliefs within them that they've picked up along the years. And then the soul decides, you know what, I don't want to put in another spirit with all new beliefs. And we'll just go ahead and see what happens here. And
exit
they'll
point.
they'll just leave. And the exit points are the different levels of consciousness. So the exit points come in usually when you shift from one conscious level to the next. Just as I left the physical plane of the first and second chakra, went into the third, which is where I appeared to people as the sun. The sun is in the solar plexus, it looks like. So when we leave a conscious level, we no longer appear to be there, even though we can be there, even though we're in a higher level of consciousness. And that's where the souls are sitting with the remote controls in the solar plexus. But up in the heart, you become your presence, the God presence. You become your higher self in essence. Your higher self is outside, like right here. But the I am, become your I am. And you can look down upon your soul doing the little controls on your ego who's in fear, and your emotional body who's crying and being a victim, and all of these little aspects of ourselves, our inner children, our ego, all these different aspects of us that cause us to go crazy in the head. Because I remember, I know what it feels like to get angry, and there's no anger on this side. So the anger that wells up inside is due to all the hormones in the body, the adrenaline rushes, and all of these things that they're using the words in my head. He says, we're using the words in our head. He was using a different word. He said the pine cone and the almond within the mind. He's saying that it's a horrible feeling, horrible feeling. And down there, beneath the soul, anger comes in the form of a demon. So people will say, oh, I have demons. But once they become self-aware, they realize, oh, that's my own anger that I'm seeing. That's my own anger that's there. And if I didn't have that anger, I wouldn't have those demons. So the two of you, we were wanting to explain this as leaders and spiritual teachers in an ascending planet. We always need for you to be 2 to 3 steps ahead of the rest that you're leading and guiding. There's others that are way far beyond you, but the others that are looking to you for assistance and help are those that are looking to move to the next step. Like, what's next? Okay, I know I'm a soul. I know that I'm alive. I know that I'm gonna go somewhere. And now what's next? How do I make my life feel better? How do I get out of these same things that keep happening to me over and over? Why do I keep marrying the same woman, or any of the same type of man? Or why do my kids treat me the way my parents treated me? It's the patterns. It's the patterns that we need to teach people to break out of, because it's what he thrives on. He's pointing at Lucifer.
Okay, two things. Actually, three things. One, you had a message. Maybe you've already given us that. Two, I'd like Jesus or Christ or whoever it is that's in here right now.
Jesus, he's sitting on the couch.
I want Jesus to think of us and people who are maybe watching right now, maybe watching for the first time and maybe being introduced to something different than what they've ever understood or learned. So in order to teach a preschooler or a kindergartner, we need to keep everything really simple. Really, really, really simple. Otherwise, it's straight over their heads. They're going to change the channel. They're going to move on. They're not going to care. So I wanted to see if they would give us a nice explanation as if they're speaking to kindergartners, where we come from, who we are, and why we're here. And then the other one was a very specific question, and it came up yesterday. And how does somebody who feels loneliness within them, an ache from being alone, how can they heal from that? How can they heal from that? So going back to keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple, keep it simple. Give us a lesson in kindergarten, a kindergarten lesson.
That's who that song was for yesterday.
Who was it for? Oh, it was?
Well, I mean, that's what he was just talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to tell Steve to listen to that song.
I'm all trying to be low profile and he says it out loud. That's when mom was like, oh.
So anyway, Jesus, can you give us a very simple kindergarten lesson of where we've come from, who we are, and why we're here?
He says, yes, if I'll allow it through.
Yeah. Once you start talking about feet and arms and legs and chakras and heart space and all that other stuff, you've lost not only me, but you lose everybody else that's in kindergarten.
He says you get lost in a heart, but you can understand aliens.
Well, I'm making an example.
Let's see here.
And people have written to me. They said, we love Marisa, but we just don't understand her. We just don't understand.
Everyone has a teacher.
So this is for the kindergartners, and yet probably your followers and your watchers or listeners right now are probably very advanced, very advanced. But sometimes you have to teach to that one person, the one person that isn't, and is just ready to make the leap.
Jeff, you want to pick up the phone?
Of course.
I'll just start the channeling. It's ringing from.
He always calls.
I know.
Where's the phone?
I want to make sure that can you guys hear me over on YouTube? It was ringing from somewhere.
You have it on here. Now call.
The white phone.
Did you say white phone on the table?
No. But well, no, I never had the white phone. Hold on, let me just text Jeff. Sorry guys, real quick. Let me just text Jeff because he's coming in with the kids. So I'll just tell him we're just channeling now. The modern day, what's it called? Apostles or something like that.
Last I saw you had it on that charger there.
Yeah, I heard it coming from right there. That's funny that it's
not there. So you moved it.
No. Hey, just wanted to let you know that we're doing our session now. It took us a while to start. Paul got over here a little later, and the computers went nuts as usual. But we're upstairs in the room and I have the door closed. So if you're gonna put the kids down, then just go ahead and do that. And we'll be done in like 45 minutes. Okay, love you. Bye. Okay. All right. Here is. Let me just see.
Was it this that was ringing?
Yeah.
Is it that?
Oh, okay.
But you had a phone that was over here too. Do you want this phone?
I just okay, here we go. Okay.
Okay. You want me to ask?
TT?
You want me to ask the question again?
Yeah, I just wrote I said, do you guys need kindergarten? Jesus is just going to say it the way he says it. And what you don't understand and what people don't understand is that I don't understand half the stuff that comes out of me. So, but then if you listen to it later on, then it's like as I'm listening to all the stuff that I channeled like 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago, going, oh, that makes so much sense, because then it actually clicks, and it's like, oh, I get it now. And it's like the little things, like you said about the river. You're talking about the river
earlier.
and yeah, and that makes sense as to something that we saw in meditation the other night. Ever since I've been doing the replays of my class the next day, I've been learning from my own channeling. Before, I wouldn't even listen to it because I couldn't handle looking at myself or listening to myself. I've just been forcing myself to. Sue started forcing me to, and I'm seeing all the connections and stuff. And it's all stuff that it's funny, all the stuff that I channel, I get.
Jesus is here.
What? She's been sitting over there the whole time.
Yeah.
What? Poochie.
Her tail's wagging, you're gonna whack me in the face.
What's her name? The haircut person never came.
Phil?
Didn't come cut her hair.
Oh.
Julie says we have a little kindergarten in us. Says I'm kindergarten, but I'm ready to learn.
What?
And Donna says preschool. Oh man. Okay. So anyways, okay, here we go. So
okay, so
Jesus is here,
going to give us a kindergarten lesson.
He's
keep it simple.
I'm not in control of this. That's the thing, is I'm not in control.
Okay,
and
I'm asking Jesus to keep it simple.
People get mad at me, and I'm just the messenger.
Mm-hmm.
I'm leaving the building. So Jesus says, leave her alone. He says, when I explain things about hands and feet, that is the whole concept of crucifixion. That's the whole concept of the hands being as far away from the heart as they can be. It's the hands are like this when you're in solitude and prayer and bringing everything into the center and knowing that God is within you. People will understand as they are getting elements, as the planet is shifting and they're shifting into their soul. We would like you to imagine you spoke with a mannequin. She wasn't, you guys saw her, she didn't do this the whole time. Now, as soon as Poochie, hey, go say hi to Jesus. There, you stay over there. She's literally barking at him. He's right there.
Maybe Jeff came in.
Maybe let Poochie out. Oh, it could be her haircut lady. Okay, so he's saying that the Bible is a map. Poochie. Sorry, guys. It's a girl. And a girl comes in like a little fifth wheeler or whatever. It's a little trailer, and she cuts Poochie's hair outside.
No, it's just the guy who's checking his mail.
Oh, okay, yeah, we're at the mailbox, but she's
a little truck for cutting her hair. It's not out there.
Okay. Poochie hasn't barked this whole time.
Let's see. Jeff is not here.
Jesus is here doing like yoga poses. What is it with the yoga poses lately? That's all I see stuff in. He's doing like something where he's like,
come on, you know that's my chair. Come on.
He's like arm up, arm to the side, and like 1 foot out. I don't think that's a yoga pose. It says go up further. Okay. Instead of scrawling so hard. He says, this is a tall order. He said, where do we come from?
Kindergarten class is a tall order.
Where do we come from? Where do we go? Who are we?
Oh, yeah.
Why are we here? Are the most complicated questions on the planet, you say. They're the most complex questions you can ask, and then you say to tell it so kindergarten can understand. Well, I'll tell you, kindergartners understand way more than you guys because they just know. So when we just know, we just know. And there is no knowledge required. Knowledge is what got us in trouble in the first place. wanting to have the knowledge. We can go into the movie aspect or the Pleasantville aspect of it, but again, won't be simple because it's a reality within a reality. And all those realities live within you. Poochie. All those realities live within you. Nobody can quite fathom or imagine who you truly are, or what you truly are. You're looking for a personality, you're looking for a being, you're looking for a type of being, you're looking for something. And in reality, you're gases, you're mist, you're clouds, you're the earth, you're everybody on the earth. You're an individualized soul that is assigned to enter into this reality. And in that soul will become fractured, whereby they create an alternate version of them, which becomes your human self. The soul separated from the human. That would be what the Bible calls sin. So as soon as your consciousness within you, Peter's going, let me handle this. Like Jesus is drawing in the dirt. He wants me to draw. Peter goes, okay, here. You're all that. It's a bag of chips. You're all that. You're everything. And then you decide to be nothing. And then you die.
I guess that's your kindergarten lesson.
He says, but we've called it a playground because it is a playground. You think it's serious, but look at the family you were speaking of earlier. Everything is an assault on them. Everything is an attack on them. Everything is, they're defensive. So they have to build themselves up in their own minds so they can create this persona of themselves that they believe to be what people think a person should be like. Every soul on this planet is living in a reality where they are being who they think they deserve to be. Every soul is doing this. And within the soul, the witness of this all would be the Holy Spirit, what you call the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is the witness, but only the witness once you leave the lower levels of consciousness. The Holy Spirit is not necessarily witnessing life down in the ghetto. That would be your elemental self. That would be your self that comes from the earth. So there's your body, and there's a soul that comes from the earth, and there's a soul that comes from me. This is Christ. Soul that comes from the heavens, one that comes from the earth. And those two are living within inside of you. The one stays and just burns bright like a morning star up in your chest. That's where God is, the copy of God. Meanwhile, your consciousness, the thought that you originally were, let's call it a gold ball of consciousness, is down in your body, but it's down in the lower levels of consciousness, which activates different parts of the brain, which creates more of a hind mind reality and more of a reptilian outlook on things, more primal, fight or flight, just looking for survival type of mechanism. And this is where the earth is right now. Everyone is being pulled down into their primal instincts, whereby they've already moved beyond that when they're 10 or 12 years old. So to make this very simple, you're that ball. You're the ball. It looks like it's black and it's silver, it turns into mercury, then it turns into gold. And the reason why all of the stories about gold, about needing gold, is that you need to bring your consciousness back to gold. You need to bring it back to gold. You need to bring it back to forgiveness, and need to forgive all of the beings that you have lived in that have created a living hell for you, in essence, in some cases, and a living heaven in others. So you're that ball, and that ball is comprised of music. Each ball is its own symphony. Each ball is its own note, its own sound, its own tone. And that it's like a vibration. You're a vibration. It's not human. It's not animal. It's not anything. It just is. It's like, as we have called it before,
you are the one looking through the GoPro video camera. And your soul is the being that's created by the GoPro video camera. So it's the reflection of your life. It's you looking back at you. And that soul then thinks it's in control, and it controls the ego and the emotional body and all the inner children, all of these things in Pleasantville. But once, and your consciousness falls into that. So it thinks that that's all it is. But as you awaken to your soul then passes your consciousness through it and gives it back the right to create as the movie producer, in essence. He's like trying to make it, I can draw, but I'd have to go find a piece of paper or a big tablet. But he says, does that make sense?
No, because you'll draw a person and you'll draw these chakras and then you'll circle the foot, and because that's what you draw most of the
That's
time.
what they draw.
That's what they draw. But nobody in kindergarten would understand that.
Kindergartner, Madison always understands where the light is inside of her. Wherever the light is inside of you, this is where you're healthy. And wherever the shadow lies within you, this is where you become unhealthy. So if your consciousness falls into the shadow in the foot, you become ill. So there, Poochie, you're getting kicked to the curb. Her butt is like pushed up against my dad.
Oh, no, your haircut.
Oh, Poochie, you're getting a haircut. Watch how scared she gets when you hand her over. The girl's gonna come out.
Just take her down.
Yeah.
Come on, you got to do your haircut now.
Okay, look at Poochie's all shaggy right now. Show her real quick. There she
That's
is.
not a
Yeah, I know, but that's right there. It should. Okay, everyone see her? She's gonna come back looking like a puppy in like 20 minutes.
Okay, here we go. Just hand her to her.
Yeah, she's gonna come knock. Jeff was probably calling me to let me know that. Oh, hold on, let me see what Jeff has to say. Sorry, guys. Okay, the pet girl's here. Could you type back to me what time you're going to be home, just so I know? We'll be done in a bit, like, I don't know, like 20 minutes or something. Okay, love you. Poochie's getting her haircut now. Okay. Is anybody understanding this? I don't know what I just said, but they make it really simple. It's when my dad says make it really simple that I think I start to like cut off things that they're saying, that if I wasn't cutting them off, then it'd be really simple, but it gets complicated. But just curious if that made any sense to anyone. I'm on YouTube, by the way, if you are seeing this. Well, I'm waiting for my dad. I'll share it on Facebook. Yeah, they won't let me channel the presidents directly because there is too many people identify with their emotional reason why they're in politics. Whether it be they were raped and they had to get an abortion, or they got taxed and they didn't want to pay taxes, or they were poor and they think ritual or evil, or whatever it is, it's all emotionally infused. So yesterday, the internet kept getting shut down. And I was like, forget it. Oh, you can turn the air off, actually. It's freezing up here. If you want to turn it off. Right by my room downstairs. Yeah, we keep it at like 75 or something. Let me post this on my page. Sorry, guys. But yeah, yesterday I was like, oh, we're gonna call in the presidents, because when me and my dad did it by ourselves, the presidents came in, they wanted to talk, all this stuff. And then as soon as everybody started logging in, it's like all the internet, my internet, literally I had to call the internet service provider. I had to call Spectrum and be like, could you like reset my internet? And they reset it and then it worked again. But I don't know if you guys remember, but in one class they said that the guides come through on 2.4, or that spirit comes through on 2.4 megahertz, and that they come in on 5G. That's why they not, or that we needed to get on 5G internet, in order for the guides to come through clear for 2.4. Because if we're on the 2.4 internet, it scrambles them because they're coming in on the same frequency. And I was like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And I read a little bit about frequencies and I was like, that makes total sense. So you know what? That's what I need to do. I need to get on 5G here. I'm trying to post this on my dad's page. There we go. Got it. Posted. So Rashay had gotten some questions from people yesterday and stuff like that. And we're going to have a class where you guys get to, where people can come and there'll be like a smaller class and you guys can actually ask questions. We won't have it airing live. I think we're going to do it soon, but we answered some of the questions yesterday and stuff like that. And I listened to it today, this morning, half of it. And I was like, that's really good information, that to know that the president is controlled by the creator of this reality and the president doesn't necessarily have free will would explain why I see Trump as three people, because there's the him that wants to do this and that, and then there's the him that has to do this because it's like he's just being controlled by the field of the presidents. And that's why we're having a hard time having us talk to the presidents, because them as human beings is very different than them as the president. The same with like the Pope and all the heads of massive amounts of people. They're all controlled by the grid of what's going to happen on the planet. So they just kept saying, don't worry about the election, don't worry about anything, because if someone has to cheat in order for something to win, it's going to happen. It's going to happen every single time. There's never been an honest election, and we feel like we're in control. But what they're saying this morning when I was talking to the guides, I said, well, that's dumb. Then why does anybody even vote? And they said, because that ties you into the collective and the group, and it makes you be a part of this and that. And they were saying that with that and ownership to the planet and who's in charge and this and that, it causes us to have emotions and it causes us to have feelings. And that's the only way the soul can experience anything other than what the soul experiences on the soul plane. So we have to come down, be blinded, have amnesia, not remember who we are, and actually think that we're just this human being, this man beast or woman beast, and that we don't have any control over what happens in our reality. And so I asked them, well, what about people who hate Trump and people who love Trump? Like, what is that? And they said, well, they're putting faith in their reality in someone else. And when the world fully evolves, each person will realize that they're creating their own reality, and they just won't even notice what's going on in others' realities. And I said, well, that sounds really lonely and boring. And then that's when you got over here. Or I said they were lecturing me, and so I was talking to them in my head. And then you bring up loneliness. That's actually kind of like depressing when they say that. It's like, so we're just gonna all just create our own reality. And they said, that's what you're already doing. You're already creating your own reality. Your little consciousness ball is experiencing it, but the consciousness ball has fallen down into a denser version of you. And it thinks that it's just Marissa or just Joe or just.
Then let me ask a question.
Yeah.
If you're saying that we're creating our own reality, what are we creating when we freely give our will over to you, that your will be done? Are we creating our own reality, or are then we following the controller that is guiding us through the plan?
The controller will catch you when you fall. The controller will catch you when you fall down into pity, despair, sadness, depression, all of these things. That's when you fall into it. And it's all about, again, big house, little house, 12-story building. Where you reside emotionally within yourself is where you're going to need help from a piece of yourself that has that controller, that is watching you down there bumping around going, oh God, I don't remember who I am. And oh, I'm so sad and I'm depressed. But once you get into a frequency, just as you said yesterday, Joe, when you're not sick, you don't remember what it feels like to be sick.
True.
So when you remember and you know, you don't remember what it feels like to not know and not remember. Just as sometimes you go into phases where you just could care less about politics. You just don't care. It's when you feel in control of your life. And so you don't feel the need to look outside of yourself to see what's happening. When, say, your wife or something happens and you just get triggered or your emotions drop down, this is when you look outside of yourself for happiness or for someone to fix something or to fill something. And that's how every single human being is, not just you. This is every single human being, whether it be through politics, religion, whether it be through spirituality, meditation, sports, anything, family, friends. People are going to want to look for happiness outside of themselves when they are below and they have that controller, because the controller is going to lead them and guide them to support, to get them back above the controller. When you turn your free will, when you turn your will over to God, you turn your will over to the divine line of light within you that guides you and leads you home. And that is unspeakable in terms other than the fact that just understand that you are a certain frequency and you're being drawn back to where you came from, like a yo-yo, and you're being drawn back up. But then if you get angry, you jump off the yo-yo and you go down below, and then the controller has to lead you back up. The person that's playing the video game has to lead you back up, pass you back through them. You turn your will over at different levels of consciousness. You're turning your will over to the controller, or you're turning it over to me, Christ, or you're turning it over to your higher self. It's whoever and whatever needs to step forward in order to get you back on track. And on track means happy. On track means happy. Sometimes the soul's path, we have said, you know, sometimes you have to go through this in order to learn this, not when you're above the controller, because then you just know that you're creating this reality. And you have gone into glimpses of this for a couple of weeks at a time. You'll get into this state of consciousness where it's like, oh, everything's great, wonderful, I don't have to worry about anything, everything's good. But then something will happen, it'll trigger you to go back down to the old brain that's down beneath the controller, and then you'll spin out there for a while and then bump back up. So what you can ask is you turn your free will over, because you don't trust yourself completely. You trust us, you trust God. But, and that's perfect, that's great, that's how everybody is here, including this channel, is you don't trust yourself, but you trust being guided and led by something much greater than even I, and that's the Father. It's the energy. It's almost like a magnet pulling you back. So when you're turning your will over to that, you're in essence telling your ego, you don't need to be in fear. The Father's going to pull us home, so that ego can't get scared. The ego can't pull you back down into that world. Your inner children are like, oh, the Father, oh, yay, we're going to get taken home. So all the pieces of you come out of fear. But if people don't believe and they're going, please, 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 God, please, 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 I'm going to give my free will, but I don't know. That's their ego praying. So that's why we make such a big deal about the seat of the soul, the snow globe, and things like this, because it puts people in the right space within themselves to even be turning their will over. Some turn their will over to something that isn't that great at all, because they're praying for people to be hurt, or they're praying for bad things to happen to people, or they're thinking they're trying to control people by praying, make that person love me, or make this person be with me, or make that person die. Or there's very awful things that people say that come through to us that must be redirected to the God of the earth, God of Mars, Neptune. Okay, Earth, Mars, Neptune. Who is that? It's that Triton guy. Zeus.
The Triton guy is Neptune.
Yeah, but I see Zeus up there. It's a merman. And you know who he looks like? He looks like the guy from The Little Mermaid. He's not a man, he's a merman. Is he a merman? Was Zeus was not a merman, was he?
Is that a tangent we're getting off on?
No. They're just saying that's where your prayers go if you're going to pray for people to be hurt.
Oh, well, nobody should be praying that.
Well, people do all the time. This is
Why in the world?
an issue.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
People will pray.
Your negative energies are just as strong as your positive
People will
energies.
pray for others, significant others, to die so that they can be with the person.
Oh,
When the
that's
person
awful.
when the person isn't even interested in this person created a reality within their own mind that person is theirs, and that person's being held back from them by this other person. So in essence, people's thoughts and projections and reflections on others are affecting them, and that then in turn we do not respond to those go directly up to him. Zeus is like,
No, it was actually from our Mysteries of the Universe book. It was Osiris is the one that gave us that lesson about the power of thought. The power of thought. The power of thought is so strong that you can literally heal somebody. You can heal somebody with your positive affirmations towards that person,
Yeah.
asking for help for that person. But you can actually destroy somebody too. But he said, but that's witchery.
Uh-huh.
That's witchery. That's following the dark side.
And that can only
But it can be
exist.
just as powerful. So those who pray or put a curse on somebody, that's powerful. That's powerful. But you're getting it from the Antichrist. The Antichrist is helping you with that powerful negative message.
They're saying the only way that a negativity can affect us is if we're down beneath the remote controlled person, if we're down in the oblivion. That's like, it feels like from here down. If we're down there, and that's caused by fear, worry, anger. Fear, worry, and anger are the three things that will cause you to be affected by others. So others may trigger you to, I think of an old friend used to say, oh, that's the addict in you. And then I feel like boom, 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 like all this stuff hitting me because she dropped me by calling me something. And then if you call somebody something, they immediately drop into it just for long enough for all the low level energies to attach onto you.
Well, how does a person who is now mired in fear, anger, and worry? And I'll just give an example. Somebody has lost their job. Their wife has found somebody else to love. And they don't know where their next paycheck's going to come from. They got fear, anger, and worry. How do you get rid of those? How do you get rid of those and still figure out a way that how to get your next check, or wish your ex-wife now well, or doom for leaving you? Of course, if you focus on trying to get revenge on somebody, it's just going to boomerang back on you because you've opened yourself up to the dark side.
All they have to do, and this is very hard when this is why people like you are here on this planet, to wedge open that door, to break open that door, because when someone hits their bottom, that's when they're willing to listen. So when someone hits their bottom, sometimes it's the best thing that has ever happened to them. Sometimes sometimes that wife was obviously not loving in the first place, otherwise she wouldn't have found somebody else. The job obviously wasn't for you, otherwise you wouldn't have been let go. When you're doing what you are supposed to do, what you want to do, what you love, you don't get fired. You don't get let go, because we create our own reality. Just like you didn't want to mow that lawn, so you got dizzy. So on some level, you knew I can be harmed by mowing this lawn. So your lower self got dizzy. But the upper self, you heard it in your head, created that initial thought. There's other reasons too. However, with things that seem bad, if you are going through this, if you're going through this right now, anyone listening, they told me to open my eyes, and I just realized the plug is she's almost out. I didn't know that I pulled the plug out. It's almost dead. Thank you guys for keeping an eye on the electronics. I don't know how they know what the electronics are doing, but it's fine. He says, an attunement to a higher level of self is always in order for someone. That's what a baptism is. So baptism is an attunement to the spirit within, to the Holy Spirit, to the piece of self that is in control, that has a high vibration, that feels love, that feels peace, that feels joy. Anything beneath that is pure primal. It's family. You are your family. You are your town. You are your skin color. You are all these things. So the way that the world is working right now is Satan is working. Satan, or Lucifer, whatever you want to call the anti-force to that, which is good, is working to create as many consciousness to enter into the family, the skin, the health, like I'm going to live or die, the city, the country, all of these things that are group collectives. Satan will do anything they can to get you to focus on family. So you focused on family with COVID. Everyone said, oh, this is great. I've been around my family. Or, oh, and I get a divorce. You're focused on family, so you're not focused on who you are. You're focused on who your family thinks you are. And that's not true to the real world. So when you bump up above that, you become your I am. Many times when people have been fired, their wives leave them, their husbands leave them, any of these things, what has happened is they realize they're not on their path. They realize they're not where they need to be. So they create that. They create it. They either give their wife the cold shoulder, they ignore her. And so she goes, well, if he's going to ignore me, I'm going to go out on him. And people won't take responsibility for this. People won't say, oh, it was my fault too, because that's what people don't do until they get into the heart and they realize the truth is the truth is the truth. The relationship wasn't good. It was a horrible relationship. They didn't have a good time. They never laughed. They never played. They never did anything that was worth anything other than just grimace at each other and all day, every day, and try to one up each other back and forth, which is what human beings do. So we would say, if that person's listening today, try to look at, instead of looking at what the person did to you, look at how you felt while in the relationship, and then ask to see the truth and feel the truth within you. And you'll actually feel the truth within you, and that will set you free. The truth will always set you free, because what upsets people the most is why? We've been married for 40 years. Why? I don't understand. And then jealousy and anger and all these things. But if people could just look at it like, well, that was God's plan. That's one good thing about the lower levels of consciousness. Well, it was God's plan. That's what was supposed to happen. And people are okay with that. But that person's being given a new lease on life. They got let go from a job they hated that they wanted to quit anyways, and they may not have even known it. And now they don't know where to get their next paycheck. But you know what? They're not with their wife anyway, so she can't complain. This is Peter. He just broke it. And oh, their wife anyways. But the key is prayer, meditation. Meditation is the key. Meditation is prayer. Yoga is prayer. Things where you're in movement, where you're just thinking yourself, you're walking, and you're moving your body. That's when God begins to speak to you. And God is above us. God is God, and we are all God. So it's listening to that God within and asking them to take us above the us that's hurt, above the us that's in pain, above the us that wants to just everybody. And that's when miracles happen. Somebody will call, give them a job the next day. They'll meet some lady down at the store, and they'll be back in the happiest life they've ever been in throughout their entire existence as that spirit or soul or human being. So I guess look at the brighter side. No, look at it as a blessing. Once you can look at something as a blessing, that's when things shift. That's interesting.
Well, I was just reading. Remember, I read that little piece while you're doing your setup. And I was saying how powerful you, Marisa, can be as a healer, physical healer of people. As long as somebody who you are trying to heal, who has a sickness, believes that you're bringing them healing energy. But if they don't believe it, and they call it lighting, you light their fire, you're lighting their fire, their flame to get rid of the disease that they have. But if they say they think you're healing them, but in their minds they go, she's not healing me, I'm sick. Your flame is still strong, it's just not lighting their flame, and they can't be healed. So there has to be, the point of that is there has to be a belief. There has to be an absolute belief that you're not talking to